Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Welcome back to episode 4 of Natter At Noon. In the flat again, as you can probably see, I'm on. Try to ignore the absolute state that my bed is in. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. But yeah, anyway, how are we all doing today? I look very greasy, I don't know why. I'm not, rest assured I'm not. I think it's just the light reflecting. But in today's episode, we're going to be talking about navigating friendships, boundaries, social media, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I guess let's just get into it. So friendships, navigating friendships in 2024, it's a tough one. I feel like most social interactions, me personally, just tend to really tire me out, and I don't know if this is maybe like a neurodivergent thing or if this is an actual thing that people feel. I think it's so easy to kind of look back at the 90s or the 70s or the early 2000s or the 2010s or whatever and just think, oh, the grass is always greener. It was so much better back then. It was so much easier back then. When really we don't know. We don't know. We can only attest. Attest, is that the right word? Is that even a word? I don't know. We can only ask someone who has lived through those decades which, they preferred, if they prefer life now, if they prefer life then. And also you have to take into account that, they might have been a teenager back then, so everything's kind of, I guess, a bit shit when you're a teenager, or if they were a child, then they might view it through rose-tinted glasses. I don't know. It's a tough one. So, yeah, I do think that to an extent, friendships have become increasingly more difficult to sustain for people. Not just me, just generally for everyone. And I think that's because, and I'm gonna roll so many eyes here because I know people are sick and tired of hearing it, I do think that it's partially due to the influx of social media. And I say this because the introduction of social media has made it absolutely possible, or rather impossible, to be unavailable to people. Social media, just because of the nature of it and then, the fact that it's all so quick and everything's, in the palm of your hand within seconds, it has made it so that you have access to so many people and access to so much information and knowledge in such a small amount of time. And as a result of that, you're expected to know everything about everything. You're expected to reply back, immediately and be available to people all the time. I saw a slideshow on TikTok that was going on about it was a nostalgic slideshow, but one of them really resonated with me. And it was a picture of a teen boy on a skateboard, which is irrelevant, but just kind of, I guess, fit the theme. And it says something along the lines of POV, you could go skating, or you could go out for hours on end, or for the entire day even, and wouldn't have to worry about people texting you, asking you why you haven't replied to them, or where you've been all day, and blah blah blah. Something along those lines. I don't remember it word for word, but something like that. And it really did resonate with me because I personally could relate to that. I could relate to being a kid, and even to an extent being a teenager, and just being gone the entire day, up to whatever, whether that was sports or arts or whatever, just being out with friends, it didn't really matter, for hours and hours on end, and not really having a worry in the world about, oh my gosh, I haven't replied to this and this, XYZ, because it did not exist, or it did not at least exist for us then, not nearly as intensely as it does now. It did not matter, there was there wasn't really, it wasn't as advanced. You couldn't really see last online in most social media apps anyway. But anyway, just let's just take a little pit break. I'm currently my room's just an absolute state right now. There you go. I don't know, I couldn't tell you why, but there's the outside. Oh, someone's just smashed a glass. Probably can't see shit all, but yeah, just thought I'd interrupt that there. I don't know why I did that, but So yeah, and this is, I guess, where the sort of boundaries come into play. So I feel like it is so difficult to set healthy boundaries these days because everyone is so up and uppity, I guess, if that's the word that you'd use, about everything, about being right all the time or not being politically correct. And I just think, sometimes you're not going to be either, or you are going to be both, or you're going to be one, or whatever. I think I'm waffling. But, friendships back then were so organic, and now it just seems like people just flock to whoever reminds them most about themselves, or whoever agrees with them about this, like, political issue, or whoever, like, is in the same, like, sort of social status or whatever. Like, I mean, I know that one's kind of been around since forever, like, Mean Girls was in the early 2000s. That's been the case everywhere, and it's not just in, like, the UK or the US either. It's unfortunately, a lot of adults don't grow out of that. They just turn into big kids as well, and they turn into, like, little social hierarchy bullies in the workplace, in the offices and stuff like that. Reason 1274 why I won't be working in an office. But it doesn't seem like anyone actually wants to, like, try and get to know someone who might be a little bit different, who might not be, like, the type of person that they're used to talking to. I think to an extent, like, once you get a bit older and you move on from, like, high school or secondary school or sixth form or whatever you call it to, like, university, for example, I feel like there's a big difference. I guess righties would kind of say everyone's woke, which I guess to an extent is true. And it does seem like people in university are heavily influenced by social media, not only in the way that they act and they talk and converse with other people, but in the way that they dress as well. Like, I can very easily see, like, the trends, especially when you go more central London as well. Because, the more like sort of central east, sort of, the more sort of, I guess, gentrified areas, if you want to call it that I've been to in and around London, the more I can kind of see the influx of social media's influence. And there's nothing wrong with that in the slightest. I mean, trends have been trends since forever. There was the whole mullet thing in the 70s or 80s or something. And, with all sorts of different, like, franchises and music and forms of art and media and whatever, there will come trends. And people, particularly young people, might get influenced by them, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I just find it interesting. Like, it is something that I never used to pay attention to before, and now I can kind of not help but notice, I guess. But yeah, I mean, so we've kind of strayed off the topic a little bit. Boundaries. I have a particular issue with setting these, because I've always been a child that was labelled from the get-go as things like sensitive, overdramatic, all of that. So I can never really tell to this day if something has actually said or done something wrong, or if I'm just misunderstanding it, or being hypersensitive, or, kind of doing what I do, I guess. It's very difficult for me to differentiate where I'm in the wrong or they're in the wrong. Like, because usually it's kind of the default is I've said or done something wrong. But what I've come to realize lately is that I can't be the one taking all the blame for everything all the time. Because this is the thing, as much as some people are lovely angels, everyone has cons about them. Everyone has, like, a darker side. Everyone has, I guess, good and bad things. And that's completely normal. But I think, like, for a lot of people, if you kind of always accept defeat and always are the one, like, apologizing and essentially being the mediator, some people tend to see you as, like, spineless. And even if they do know in their heart that they were the ones in the wrong, they will just, continue to let you take the fall for it because it's convenient for them. And it also helps boost their ego and their sense of, like, I guess, narcissism that, I'm always right. Which sucks. And it's kind of a little bit like why I now just kind of, I used to always be, when I was a teenager, I used to always be someone who really wanted the last word in, like, in disputes and shit like that. It didn't really matter who with, but I usually felt hard done by, particularly if I felt like I was fighting a worthwhile cause, or, fighting my corner that deserved to be fought for. There am I. yes, vroom, vroom. Right. I would feel very bitter if I felt like I didn't, have my say. But now, I guess, as I'm getting a little bit older, and I guess I'm not like ancient, so I've still got a lot to learn. But in the past couple of years, I've realized the impact of silence, not because I am admitting defeat or being complacent or just letting them get away with it. Not in the slightest. I'm just choosing when and where to essentially use up my energy. So i.e., if I'm speaking to a good friend of mine and we get into a little bit of a heated dispute or discussion or whatever, let's say they do something wrong and I have a problem with it, or I do something wrong, vice versa, I would only waste my time confronting them about it if I knew that they were actually going to listen, respect my, points, and take it in and maybe like try and do something with it, as I would expect for like myself. I would hope that I do that myself. Just sort of back and forth, empathizing with people, the bare fucking minimum, like you'd think, right? But I will not bother wasting my time and my energy on someone if I just genuinely feel like they're never gonna change, or they're never gonna bother listening. And that kind of comes into the sense of like, well, do I really want to be in a friendship with this person anyway if they continue to do things that hurt me or say things that hurt me? And every time I try and confront them about it, which should be like warranted in any sort of relationship, discussion, communication, all of that good stuff. If I don't feel like they're listening, then I'm not going to basically bother wasting my time. And I think if it's a serial offense, like it's happened multiple times, then it kind of just begs the question of like, I kind of don't really want this person in my life anymore. I don't know why I said it in that accent, but yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've come to the realization that actually there were a lot of instances in my life where I essentially let people get off a little bit too easy just because I was too young and too naive to see the sense or see kind of like the malicious intent behind their actions or their words. I kind of just took everything that they were saying as like foolproof, ironclad, and I just went on with it for the sake of not wanting to get in an argument, because I've always been someone who's very sensitive, I guess, hates confrontation. But nowadays, like one of my New Year's resolutions, I know New Year's resolutions, right? Whoever actually sticks to them. One of the New Year's resolutions that I'm trying to stick to, and I would hope that I'm being at least 50-50 successful with it, is being more assertive. Now, that doesn't mean being like confrontational, like I've not been confrontational, but it means fighting my ground and fighting my corner. And it also means that, for me personally, I've communicated to like pretty much all the people in my life that if you've got an issue with me, or if you've got like something you want to discuss, respectfully, I'm not discussing it with you on text. Like I'm not doing it online. I'm not discussing it on text. I would even go as far to say I'm not even going to bother discussing it on call. I mean, it depends on the context. Like if my friend is like 5 hours away and they just literally can't make it, then yes, of course, I'll do it on call. But in the age nowadays where, everyone screenshots everything, everyone's just waiting to stab someone else in the back, and, cancel culture and AI, and literally everything can be faked, even though someone might not have ever said or done the things. AI can make it into a video as if they've done like or said these things. I just don't care for it, and maybe that sounds very like, what's the word? Suspicious? I don't know, like untrustworthy, I guess. I can understand that, but that's not the only reason. The other reason, which is the most important reason, is no confrontation has ever been successfully sorted via text. And I will stand and die on this hill, because through my own experience, we undermine and undervalue the absolute utmost crucial importance of A, tone of voice, B, facial expressions, and C, body language. 3 very important factors when discussing or just talking generally with someone. It can kind of get you the vibe of like their energy, if you like this person or not, if they're being nice to you, if they don't like you, if they do like you, or whatever. And in the sense of like sorting out discussions and arguments and shit like that, that's also very important as well, because when I tell you every single thing I say these days is misinterpreted over text like that, I'm not lying. And it's through no fault of anyone, really. It's just the nature of sometimes how texts come across, and that's why I just do not believe that it is a viable way of like solving any problems. I just think, you know, if you've got a problem with me, respectfully have the guts to tell me in person, like tell it to my face, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. You know, it's like, if you've got a problem, say it to my face. But not in that way, like I'm not looking to, like, you know, spark someone out. I'm just saying, like, if you want to talk to me about it, I would much rather you come and talk to me in person, because I also think that you can get a much more authentic, raw, like, response out of people as well when they haven't had like 7 business days to read over the same text and formulate a response. When someone is kind of like almost forced to respond to you immediately, it can either, I guess, go like good or bad. They can go into like panic mode and just say whatever heinous shit comes to their mind, in which case probably not the best person to surround yourself with anyway. Or they can be, you know, maybe surprisingly a bit more not upfront, open-minded. I don't know, just I find it's better. But yeah, I mean, friendships in 2024 are a weird batch to navigate. I do hope that it, you know, does get a little bit better. I do have hope. Like, I've met a lot of amazing people this year, and hopefully more to come. But it's just a case of, like, everyone is so busy, everyone's so wrapped up in the never-ending chaos that is life right now. And it just seems like in order to keep a long-lasting friendship going, you've got to both really want it. And I think if people want to make the time for you, they will. I don't believe any of all this stuff like, oh, I'm too busy, blah, blah, blah. No one's that busy. I've been extremely busy, and I've still been able to make time for the people that I care about. So I hate to break it to you, but they're probably just chatting out their arse. Anyway, I will stop waffling now. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. Let me know, you know, let's try and get a discussion in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. There are any points that you know, that resonate with you particularly. Give your 2 cents. I'd love to have a discussion about it. I'm always open-minded. So yeah, peace.